Most people have no idea that right now, at this very moment, there is an active volcano sitting inside a lake, which sits inside another volcano, on an island surrounded by that lake, which is itself inside yet another volcano. This isn't science fiction. This isn't a movie set. This is a real place on Earth, and it's been building pressure for decades. Welcome to Taal Volcano in the Philippines. Arguably the most bizarre, most dangerous, and most breathtaking geological formation on the entire planet. And here's the terrifying part. Over 2 million people live close enough to be swallowed by it. Let's break this down, because your brain is going to need a second to process it. About 60 miles south of Manila, the capital of the Philippines, sits Taal Lake. It's gorgeous, 234 square kilometers of glittering water, surrounded by lush green hills. Tourists come from around the world just to look at it. What most of them don't realize is that the entire lake, it is the volcanic caldera. The hills around it, those are the ancient walls of a supervolcano that erupted so violently thousands of years ago that it collapsed into itself and filled with water. But inside that lake, there's an island, Volcano Island. And on that island, an active volcano with its own crater lake at the top. So the structure is Caldera Lake Island Volcano Crater Lake. Volcano. Inside a lake. Inside a volcano. Think of it like a Russian nesting doll, except each doll is capable of killing everyone in the room. Taal has erupted over 33 times in recorded history. It's one of the most active volcanoes in the world, and scientists classify it as a decade volcano, one of just 16 volcanoes globally identified as deserving special study because of their potential to cause catastrophic disasters near densely populated areas. Scientists were shocked when they discovered that Taal Lake itself is not fresh water. It's actually a mix of fresh and salt water, because the lake is connected to the sea through underground fissures in the earth. That means the ocean is literally seeping into a volcanic lake that sits over a magma chamber. The pressure interactions this creates are deeply unsettling to geologists. Here's another one that breaks people's brains. Nobody expected this Taal lake is home to fish. Freshwater sardines, to be exact. People fish here. They eat from this lake. They boat on it. There are tourist boats that take visitors right to Volcano Island past the acid lake to hike up the active crater. You can literally stand on the rim of an active volcano that's sitting in a lake that's sitting in another volcano. For fun. On a Tuesday. Now let's talk about what it actually does when it erupts. In 1911, Taal had one of its most devastating eruptions. Scientists were shocked when they later calculated the death toll: over 1,300 people killed, not just by lava, but by a phenomenon called a base surge. This is a superheated wall of gas, ash, and rock fragments that moves at 100 kilometers per hour at ground level. You cannot outrun it. You cannot hide from it. In 1911, entire towns were buried in minutes. The surge moved so fast and so low that trees were snapped at the base rather than the top. People didn't burn. They were suffocated and buried simultaneously. Then came the 12th of January 2020. This changes everything we know about how quickly Taal can shift from dormant to catastrophic. Within hours of showing activity, Taal shot a volcanic plume 15 kilometers into the sky. Ash rained down on Metro Manila, a city of 13 million people. Flights were canceled. Schools closed. And then the lightning started. Nobody expected this volcanic lightning. When Taal erupted, the ash cloud generated its own electrical storm. Bolts of lightning crackled inside the eruption column. Photographs of it looked so unreal that people assumed they were AI generated. They weren't. The collision of volcanic particles in the plume creates static electricity on a massive scale. Nature was putting on the most terrifying light show in human history, right above a lake inside a volcano. But here's what really keeps volcanologists up at night. Taal doesn't just erupt from the main crater on Volcano Island. It has over 47 recorded craters and vents spread across the island, and even under the lake itself. That means an eruption could happen beneath the water, generating a phenomenon called a phreatomagmatic eruption where magma meets water. The resulting explosion is exponentially more violent than a standard eruption because water vaporizes instantly into steam. expanding to 1,700 times its original volume in milliseconds. Scientists were shocked when they modeled what a large phreatomagmatic eruption from Tal would look like. The results were classified as a regional catastrophe scenario. The entire lake could essentially explode, sending a tsunami across its surface, raining debris across Batangas and Laguna provinces, and injecting enough aerosols into the upper atmosphere to temporarily affect weather patterns across Southeast Asia. And here's one more detail that will haunt you. The crater lake on top of Volcano Island, that small, impossibly beautiful turquoise lake, has a pH of nearly 1. That is more acidic than battery acid. This changes everything we know about what calm looks like on Tal. That serene, picturesque surface is a pool of sulfuric acid sitting on top of a magma chamber. It's not peaceful. It's just waiting. Now I want you to close your eyes for a second and imagine this with me. It's a regular morning in Manila. 13 million people are making breakfast, commuting to work, dropping kids off at school. The air is warm. The sky is blue. 60 miles south, Tal Lake shimmers in the early sun. Fishermen are already out on the water. At 6:14 a.m., seismographs across the Philippines spike simultaneously. Then again. Then a third time stronger. The ground beneath Tal Lake begins to bulge. Hydrothermal vents along the lake floor start venting superheated gas. Fish die by the millions within minutes, floating to the surface in a toxic carpet. At 6:22 a.m., the main crater on Volcano Island cracks open along 3 separate fissures at once. Water from the crater lake pours into the magma below. Nobody expected this. The eruption doesn't build slowly. It detonates. A phreatomagmatic explosion tears through Volcano Island, sending a column of ash, steam, and rock 20 kilometers straight up. The shockwave crosses the lake in 8 seconds and strikes the shoreline towns of Talisay and San Nicolas. Buildings collapse. The lake surface generates a 3-meter wave. Within 30 minutes, ash begins falling on Manila. Visibility drops to near zero. The airport shuts down, one of the busiest in Asia. The electrical grid begins to fail under the ash load. Communications collapse. A city of 13 million people is suddenly in the dark, breathing sulfur, unable to call for help. PHIVOLCS, the Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology, issues an alert level 5. That is the highest level. It means hazardous eruption is imminent or ongoing. Evacuate immediately. But for hundreds of thousands of people in the immediate danger zone, the evacuation window has already closed. Scientists were shocked when they ran evacuation simulations and found that in a sudden onset Tal eruption scenario, up to 450,000 people would have less than 45 minutes to reach safe ground. Most roads leading out of the danger zone pass through valleys that would be the first places hit by pyroclastic surges. This isn't a hypothetical disaster movie. This is the scenario that Philippine disaster agencies train for every single year. And volcanologists agree. It's not a question of if Tal erupts again in a major way. It's a question of when. Here's what I want to leave you with. Right now, as you're watching this, Tal is being monitored 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Hundreds of seismometers, gas sensors, GPS deformation instruments, and satellite systems are all pointed at this one place on Earth. Scientists are watching every breath it takes, and yet people still live there. They still fish that lake. They still take tourists to the island. They still call those shores home, because that's what humans do. We build our lives in the most dangerous, most beautiful, most alive places on Earth, and we refuse to leave. Tal Volcano is not just a geological curiosity. It is a reminder that this planet is still alive in ways we barely understand. That under our feet, under our homes, our cities, our lakes, there are forces so enormous and so indifferent to human life that they make everything we've ever built feel like a sandcastle at high tide.